is Amy Bruske, and I'm here with Kathy Kolbe, and we're the authors of Business is Business. Today, on Dov Baron's Leadership and Loyalty show, we're going to unveil the secrets to successful family businesses, and specifically how you can trust your instincts.
Congratulations! You are tuned into Dov Baron's Leadership and Loyalty Show, the #1 podcast for Fortune 500 executives and those who are dedicated to creating a quantum leap in leadership. Your host, Dov Baron, is the founder of FullMontyLeadership.com. He's an executive mentor to leaders like you, a contributing writer for Entrepreneur Magazine, CEO World, and he's been featured on CNN, Fox, CBS, and many other notable sites. Dov Baron is an international business speaker who was named by Inc. magazine as one of the top 100 leadership speakers to hire.
Welcome, dear friends, fans, and fellow aficionados of leadership excellence. Thank you for joining us here on this episode of Dov Baron's Leadership and Loyalty Tips for Executives. Apparently, I can't remember the name of my own show. Never mind. This is part of the interview series where today we're going to look at family and business. Are they two things that should be kept separate, or could they actually come together without it ending up looking like another version of the Godfather? If you're a new listener and viewer, I want to thank you for joining us. Strap yourself in, we're about to go full Monty. If you are a regular listener, a regular viewer, thank you for making us the #1 podcast globally for Fortune 500 listeners. We're also honored and deeply grateful to have been cited by Inc. magazine as the #1 podcast to make you a better leader. GNA also cited us as in the top 10 podcast for HR pros and managers. All pretty great. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Thank you for sharing the show with everybody you know. And remember, we always need your help in staying relevant, so get yourself over to iTunes. Rate, review, and subscribe to the show. All right, let's strip it down and dive right in. Watching and listening to the show, you're either a high-level executive, an entrepreneur, a sales leader, or a leader in some capacity. And as such, you've no doubt been faced with that moment of what might be perceived as nepotism. That moment where someone has decided that they'd like to come into the business. Some family member would like to come into the business, and you have to decide whether that's actually good for the business, actually maybe even not that good for the family, and maybe it could be good for one but not for the other. You're going to have to look at that. Well, our guests today don't just have an opinion about this. They have a family business, and what's more, they have the research, the strategies, and the instrument for you to find out if your sister, brother, or your sister, brother, wife, depending on where you're from, sister, brother, cousin, or any other relative should actually be allowed into the business. Kathy Kolbe is a global leader in discovering and accessing the power of human instinct. She has done the brain research to prove the relevance of the Kolbe Index for individual and organizational success. Kathy is the creator of the world-renowned Kolbe Index, which validates an individual's natural instincts, their instincts, and their MO, their modus operandi, through which it enables you to be at your very most productive. I know this because I've actually done the test, and they waved it around at me last time we met. And we've also used it for hiring practices, and I can tell you, we'll probably get into it, that when I ignored it, it did not work out well. So you should know that. Amy Bruske, who you can see right there too, with Kathy, is the president of Kolbe Corp, and she leads seminars for business leaders throughout the world. She was recently named as Business Owner of the Year by the Phoenix chapter of the National Association of Women Business Owners. Pretty cool. Kathy and Amy are both award-winning consultants and advisors to over 3,000 family-owned businesses, as well as Fortune 500 companies. Both are highly sought-after speakers. As a mother and daughter team, they've been working together for more than 2 decades. Kathy and Amy have personally experienced every situation that is discussed in their brand new book right here, Business is Business, Reality Checks for Family-Owned Businesses. So ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome Kathy Kolbe and Amy Bruske. Woo! Crowd's going wild.
Nice. I like it.
Oh, they're not putting it down yet. They're going for a while. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Is that a standing O?
Yeah.
It's definitely a standing O. Thank you, guys. Good to have you here.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
My absolute pleasure. And, I said earlier in the intro that we had met before because we had the pre-chat and we sort of found out a little bit about each other. And I had said that I had done the test and you showed up with a printout of the test, which is like, damn, these guys are good. And it was like 7 or 8 years ago when I did it, right? It was a long time ago. So it was pretty cool. And as I said, what's that?
You haven't changed a bit.
No.
Cognitively.
Well, we'll find that out, I guess. According to Forbes, family businesses generate more than 50% of the U.S. gross national product. And I think that when I, as you know, do some work with family business. And when I say that, I'm always nervous about saying that term because people think of family business as being the mom and dad pop shop down the road, But family business is big business. It's the Johnson & Johnsons is the example I like to give. And I think that it's sort of easy to see somebody coming into the family business if we go back to the old world, which is we need workers, so we have children, But now it's at a much greater level as these multi-generational 5, 6, 10, 12 generations of business. That piece around nepotism that I talked about. Tell us how, when you're advising these families, before you even get into the Kolbe test, what's the first piece of direction you want to give these people? Because it does seem like there's a lot of pressure for next gen person to step up and go, okay, now you're in the business, and maybe that person wants to be a dancer or wants to be an artist or wants to be something completely different entrepreneurially. What's the first guidance you give to them?
The first thing that we say, and this is why we call the book Business is Business, and of course Personal is Personal, is you have to think about if it's a good fit all around. So does the business need the strengths of this individual? What are the needs and how does this person fit into it? But of course, because we love our family members, we should think about what are their needs and desires. You had mentioned what if they want to be a dancer? That's all about what are you passionate about? What do you love? What kind of environment do you want to be in? And then what skills do you bring to the table? And by the way, we recommend that you never bring someone into the business if they haven't already succeeded somewhere else. So you don't want to bring the college student who's graduating right into the business. That's one of the biggest mistakes that we see all the time. So they have to be bringing some skills to the table or have some talent that would fit in. And then the third piece, as you were saying, is understanding that MO or modus operandi. How do they get things done? And is there a place for them in the business based on their talents of problem solving?
Right. But it is that emotional leverage, that emotional pressure of like, well, it's my son. I mean, I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday who is an advisor to family business, and he's talking about the financial advisor. He's talking about the challenge he has is like he's done great work with his family and pulled them out of a big mess over 2.5 years. But the son-in-law is the lawyer. Mm-hmm. And the son-in-law is, how do you say it in German? Wanker? He's not making it easy. He's a wanker. He's slow stuff down, and this guy who's done great work with them, the lawyer doesn't particularly like him. So he gets in the way of the family, he gets in the way of the progress. But he actually, the guy who I served said, have you spoken about this? And he said, yeah, I've spoken about it with the family members. I said, how'd it go? He's our son-in-law. Mm-hmm. And it's like, wow, how do we get past this? How do we help people to because there's these two things are linked. You are in the business and you got value, but you're also a family member.
I think, first of all, we have to deal with the reality that only 15% of family businesses make it to the third generation.
Absolutely.
And one of the main reasons for that is just what you're talking about. If what you do is bring family in because, oh, sweet little Amy, she needs a job out of college, we want to see her in a nice home. No, that's no favor to her and it's no favor to the business. What you do is sit down and say, any of you who really want to ever be in this business have to go prove yourself someplace else first. And that's what I always did with Kolbe Corp. Then after you've proven that you have value in the workplace, in the marketplace, elsewhere, you have more self-efficacy. You believe in your skills more because it's not just because mom and dad think you're great or think you're relative. When you come into the business, you then bring something beyond just I'm a family member. I have some experience, I've proven myself. The role you put them in must fit their cognitive MO, their Kolbe result.
Right.
So we didn't bring Amy in to do financial stuff. Amy's a quick start. Amy needs to sell. Amy needs to be out talking to people. Amy has fabulous abilities, but they weren't in bookkeeping.
Right.
And so often we have gender biases, we have age. The baby of the family isn't expected to be a leader. That makes me furious. I'm the baby of 4. And no, in our family business, the Wonderlic personnel test, I was never considered for any leadership there because I was the baby.
Right.
So if we get rid of the oldest male should be the leader, the baby shouldn't be expected to do any leading, and everybody's got to prove themselves, and you've got to have value in a specific role. You don't just come in to see what you do.
So that lawyer's an interesting example, though, because I think we should address that, because one of the things that you had mentioned is he's slowing everything down, which, by the way, we have a family member, my brother, my stepbrother, and Kathy's son, who is the lawyer in our business, too. And guess what? He slows everything down. But that's his job as well. So it's an interesting challenge, because I think that family members tend to work together and keep working together when they really like each other and they agree on methodology and they kind of do things the same way. So then you bring in an individual who gets things done a little differently, and that's frustrating. And by the way, that happens whether it's family or not.
Of course.
So the communication that is necessary, you have to have a really strong relationship with that brother-in-law in order to ever even go into business with them. Because guess what? You are going to tick each other off. You're going to have frustrations. You need to be solid in your relationship and be able to have really honest communication, probably beyond what you'd need with a brother-in-law you don't work with. So I think that that's the key. And then there have to be boundaries, and you have to figure out how often is this affecting when we go to family dinners or that kind of thing? Because I see people who can't leave it at work.
Right.
And it just starts creeping into their personal discussions and all of that. So I think that takes quite a bit of practice. You just have to be aware that that's
But I think you both are saying something that is vitally important. I mean, okay, so we go through the Kolbe Index. We have everybody who wants to come in and everybody who's in go through that. We can see that we're all a little different. We have our strengths, we have our weaknesses, etc., etc. Great, good stuff. But if you don't know how to communicate, and you're not willing to communicate, I don't care what you score high or low in. The bottom line is you're dead in the water. And this is part of the challenge that happens with the family dynamic. My side is the stuff that I do is around the family dynamic stuff. I do the psychology, but the family dynamic. And if you can't do that communication well, even if, because of course, if somebody has the same style, then we communicate pretty well because we have the same style. But if you don't know how to communicate with somebody who's got a completely different style to you, if you don't know how to use, even at a simple level of whether they're visual or auditory or kinesthetic, and move into their modus operandi in that language, you're dead in the water. And so you've got this constant battle for significance, for importance, everybody picks on me. So the thing is that what I loved about the Kolbe piece was that clarity around that, and we need to have great communication, because the communication is you're not me. Because you know as well as I do, and I'm certainly in family business, I know, and it's certainly in all business, is we want to hire people who are like us.
Sure.
I know, I've done it. It's a disaster.
Right.
The last thing we need is another dove in my business. Because
So
I'm going to love you for a while, and then
Well,
you're going to really get on my nerves.
As you know, you got to convince a lot of business owners you need to hire people who do things differently. You need cognitive diversity. So Amy and I are both quick starts. We work together really easily. We can finish each other's sentences. David, who is my son, the fact finder lawyer and Wharton alum, so he's got all the facts and the figures. He's the data guy, he's the technology guy, and the lawyer. So when I ask him, what do you think about this idea, David? It's, Kathy, and we don't use, he doesn't call me mom at work.
Yes.
And that's very important to
That's
not
very cool.
do that. We use first names only. well, Kathy, there's this problem, there's that problem, there's the other thing, and I really think that this is not a good thing to do right now. I'm just dying to do it. My quick start is saying, go, go, go. And so I'll argue with him, and I'll keep saying, David, I can pull it off. I can make this work. And he said, well, maybe you can, but here's the cost of the business if you do that. And then he goes through all, and I will get probably red in the face, angry. Saying, David, you're standing in the way of a brilliant new innovative product. And he'll say, Kathy, the answer is no, we shouldn't do it. And we'll be practically, we don't scream at each other, but we will be in each other's face.
The vein in the forehead is popping.
Right.
And then at the end of the conversation, I look at my watch and say, David, I got to be at your house in 15 minutes for dinner with your family. See ya. Run out. When we get to his house, it's hi.
Right. It's
we
done.
don't bring up business.
Right.
It is gone.
Right.
It is a totally separate thing. His kids know we disagree because they will comment, Grandma, how do you deal with it when Daddy's always telling you why something won't work because he does it to us? And I'll say, yeah, he does it to the world.
But
and
that's
his
his value.
job. That's his value. That's his role.
Right.
And by the way, 90% of the time he saved me from myself.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I need to listen to him.
And you know, one thing that I would add to all of this, because I keep thinking back to that lawyer, values are the fundamentals that you need above all else. So we can drive each other crazy. You cannot be on the same page, even when you're struggling with communication. But you have got to know that the family members coming into the business, that you share business values. That may or may not be the same as we go to church together or we, enjoy the same things socially. How do you make decisions as a business and what do you care about? If that's there, you can work through everything else. And that's where we've really seen it fail, when it doesn't work. Because you're not willing to push through it.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I know he's only saying no for the right reasons.
Sure.
He knows.
I totally agree with you. A lot of our work that we do with companies is our focus is purpose-driven organizations, purpose-driven leaders, and we call that the soul of a business and soul of a person, non-religious, but that coming to that center, that soulful piece. And what we say is the problem is you've not identified the soul of the business. You've got these values that you think were the right ones intellectually. You made them up, or somebody said, "Oh, this would be good." No, we're innovative. What do you do as innovative lately? Nothing. But we're at the edge of innovation. Okay, we're all about integrity. What does integrity mean? Well, no, that's actually not what it means. Oh, okay. So, they manufacture stuff. Whereas going to that depth of purpose, then if everybody's tied to that, then it's like, well, what is this about? We are about, I'm going to make one up, but not my company, but using your example, what you said before, we're about cognitive diversity, right? That's what really matters. Cognitive diversity, so everybody can bring their own strengths to it. That's a central piece for us. That's what our purpose is about. Well, you really drive me mad. Yeah, it's because I'm cognitively different than you. Oh, okay, good. We can carry on. And that coming to that piece, what you're saying there is about purpose and the values that are built around that purpose are so vital that it becomes part of then when you put people into this test and say, well, where do your strengths really show up? And, because so many strengths, like you said, your son is very different than yours are, Amy, and that's great if they're coming to that central piece.
What we know is you're absolutely right about values. We know that cognitively, that instinct-driven part of the mind it's not genetic.
No.
But we've grown up and raised our kids. The single most important thing I believe we do in raising kids is teach values.
Yes.
So the joy for us, and what was the moral imperative for us writing this book, was we knew too many families who were afraid to work together. And because of that, didn't have the joy we have of working together as a family. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to make it clear, you can overcome every obstacle. We can help you do that to the usual family problems, as long as you have these shared values. And with that, you will have more joy in being in business than you could have in any other business. There is nothing more wonderful than being able to sit here with my daughter.
One of the things that I found interesting, because I'd done all kinds of tests, in my late 50s and be in business, be into psychology and leadership and all this kind of, there's a new test, I'll do it, right? And a lot of them I found to be a bit sort of, they didn't get me. They didn't get me. One of the things I found very interesting about the Kolbe Index is that it's different because it actually doesn't have to do with how smart I am. It doesn't have to do with my social style, but more to do with the action that I'm willing to take. That, for me, was a very interesting piece. Tell us a bit about that instinctual piece of what comes up in the Kolbe Index versus, the ones that are more intellect or even EQ. This seems to be different. Tell us about that difference. I think it's important for our viewers, our listeners.
So that was a great summary, because what you touched on are these three dimensions of the mind. We know that the first one is intelligence, or what you're capable of doing. So you may be capable of doing something in a very systematic, organized way. Let's say you know how, you have the skills.
Actually, he's
knowledge.
not.
Well, he's not, but a person can.
Damn, you're giving me away. Shut up.
And then the other thing, the second piece has everything to do with your personality and your motivation and your desire. Do you want to do that? Do you value structure? And I think that's some of where the personality tests go wrong, is that it will say you're a very organized person. And what it's saying is you value things to be structured. That doesn't mean that's how you're going to take action. So this third dimension of the mind, we've been using this phrase cognitive, and cognitive is a striving or a need to take action in a certain way. It's that third dimension that is predictive of how you will take action if you want to do it, and if you have the skills to do it or the knowledge. It's then the how. And that piece is so critical in business, because it doesn't matter if I want to be a planner or more organized. What happens over time is, if my natural way of doing things is much more adaptable, if you put me in a position where I'm having to be so systematic and structured, over time, I'm not going to be able to sustain that. Not only that, but I am going to burn out. I'm going to end up hating my job. We know that there's this mental energy available that you have. And when you work against that, that's when all kinds of things go wrong. This is when your employees are not sticking around anymore, or you're firing them and they're failing. So you could take a very smart person who wants to be there, but putting them in the wrong role is really the challenge. So you had mentioned some of, EQ or other kinds of assessments, and we have a lot of clients who use those very successfully to look at motivation and values and, what do you want to do? What's your personality type? But this third dimension is so critical, because it's actually what's going to give you the information you need to make hiring decisions and putting teams together and who should be doing what. And the other thing that we find is people get very frustrated with themselves. The smartest people get frustrated because they want to be something else that they're not. And as soon as they see their Kolbe Index, just as you said, and it's so validating, you start giving up all of those other things that you maybe want to do, and figure out there are other people who should be doing it for you instead.
I think that's fascinating, because background in psychology, where I come from, is, in the sense of being trained, is what's wrong with you. Mm-hmm. Let's find out what's wrong with you and fix it.
Yep.
And this is, for me, is very different, and it's very much where I operate from now, which is what's right with you.
Yes.
How do we feed that? And like, my wife will come over and she'll look at my desktop. A member of my team, we shared the screen. We did the screen share, and I hadn't covered the screen yet. And so she saw my screen, and she's like, "Oh my God, I would go insane if I had that desktop." And my wife was sitting over here, and she goes, "Me too." And everything is on my desktop. And my wife's like, "Do you know that slows your computer down?" And she says, "Do you know you have folders for these things?" And she goes, "Why don't you just put them in folders?" Because I can't remember what freaking folder I put it in if I put it in a folder. It's too organized. Right. But I know where it is. I have a visual image of where it is on that. What looks like a complete chaos to anybody else, for me, is actually very organized. For me.
What a fabulous example, because that is the kind of New Year's resolution that people set for themselves every year. I'll do an exercise when I work with teams where I'll say, write down the last New Year's resolution that you had. How many different times have you had that same one? And then see if it's about action. And almost always it's about changing how I get things done. So cleaning up your desktop can actually cause more stress. And yet we have all of these experts in organization telling us there's one right way to do it. So good for you that you figured out that you're going to let that part go, because it works for you.
Yeah, and this is the thing, is that really going to the strengths is what I loved about about the Kolbe test, is it goes to the strengths. And there are strength tests, the Gallup strength test and all those things. They're great things. And I've been through them all, but there was this piece in here, and you talked about it a lot, because your audio is on there, Kathy, and I love that. And I recommend that people go to the Kolbe Index and take it, whether you're in a family business or any business, go take it. Because one of the things is that each piece, there's 1 minute of this lovely, soothing Kathy Kolbe voice telling you. But one of the things that comes up a lot is this piece around instinct, and which I don't think is a word that we generally use, certainly in the context of business. Right. Is instinct. I mean, we might have an instinct to bring a family member into the business, but we might also have an instinct to think, oh my God, this could be a disaster. But this goes to the central core, as you say, modus operandi of the individual, the instinct of the individual. Talk to us a little bit, Kathy, about instinct more, rather than conscious or cognitive or, that sense.
It's fascinating because instinct is starting to be used more by people who are covering up what they did wrong. Well, it was just my instinct. It operated on instinct. So what I want to clarify is instinct is the internal pattern for how you do things. It's not what you do. So you don't commit a murder or an offense by instinct. It's the instinct that makes you do it a certain way.
Right.
So way
instead of drowning them, you suffocate them. That's the instinct.
Yeah.
And that was the new family member you brought in, and you didn't put through the Kolbe test.
Fact finders shoot. Quick start. Actually,
we don't know this.
I've worked with some prison systems. I can tell you how they cheat. I've done a lot with prison systems, so I can't tell you there's a relationship with how you commit the crime.
Absolutely.
The way most entrepreneurs commit crimes is the same way they make money, honestly, by the way. Interesting.
And that's why there's entrepreneurs now.
Well, there you go.
Right. Convicts who became entrepreneurial. They use the same strategy. You got it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is they get caught less frequently than the follow-through fact finder money guys who kept with the same format. That's a story. Time-wise,
yes,
we use time differently. And so the instinct for the fact finder is to use time based on what happened in the past. And they will document, and they will research, and they will spend time organizing a strategy, and in great detail and great thoroughness. For you, that would be a waste of time. You do a little bit of that. Mm-hmm. Your quick start use of time, and I relate to this, is the last moment. Mm-hmm. You wait until the last moment, and then you say, okay, let's go for this. Or something happens at the moment, and you see it, and you say, I got to do that. And if you don't do it at the time that you see it, the moment is lost. It's gone. And it's not going to work for you. So, yeah, for you, that time is right now, do it or forget it. Mm-hmm. If you overthink it, if you get into that part of the mind, it won't work for you. For the follow-through, the use of time is to integrate and have a timeline and to manage time. They are the ones who teach time management. Well, 25% of the population is insistent in each one of these four modes we're talking about. Sure. So time management only works for those who teach it and the 24% of the rest of the world who get it. For the other 75%, do not take any more time management courses. You won't do what they tell you to do.
I personally have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, right.
I never experienced that.
How many time management courses did it take you to decide not to do it? Yeah.
Every time I have a simple one, it's called put it in the schedule or it doesn't get done. That's it.
Yeah. And if you have to rate something, whether it's A, B, or C, forget it. I'm not going to get past the A's. I don't bother with that other stuff. Now, implementer's use of time, an implementer is the instinct to use your environment, to be tactile, to be hands-on. Right. They use time to create quality. So if you want a carpenter to give you quality-made furniture or cabinets, give them all the time they need. Right. Don't pin them down to, I need it in a hurry, because you'll get slipshod or you'll get, they just won't keep showing up. They'll go work for someone else.
It's fascinating stuff. I just love this thing around instinct. I think it's, like I said, I just think it's a piece that really is quite distinct in the Kolbe test, and I really love it.
But I want to warn you, do not use instincts as your excuse.
No, I understand.
I'm hearing in Washington right now, the way I've heard in academia for years, the way people rarely use instincts the right way when they said, I just did it by instinct. You never just use instinct. It, as Amy said, it's coordinated with thinking and feeling. What we need are people who trust their instincts, understand and know their instincts, but then say, okay, I mean, my instinct is to start a new business every third day. Fortunately, I have people around me who say, Kathy, really? I mean, David and Amy does a certain amount of that. But I listen to them, and then I go into my intellect, and I look at the sensibility of it. Is it practical? Is that smart to do? Your instincts will tell you some things you could do. Intellectually, you evaluate whether you should. Mm-hmm. And when you combine those, you come up with very wise decisions. But people who just say, I did it on instinct, that's just stupid.
Well, I think that that's a very good point. I'll tell you why. One of my word is ego. And I say people do not understand the word ego.
Right.
They see the present president of the United States and say he's an egomaniac. And I say, okay, I can get why you're saying that. But now let me point out this person. This person is always talking down about themselves and they don't believe they can do anything. That person's got just as big an ego. One is pushing one out, one is pulling one in. There's still ego. And I said, and here's the deal, and where it ties into instinct. I say, people use the word ego. It's the modern word for devil. Back when I was a kid, people used to say, the devil made me do it. Now people say, it was my ego. Or they might say, it was just my instinct. Yeah. Bullshit. You have cognitive processes, you have a brain, you have intellect, you can work something out and go, yeah, that was my knee-jerk rather than instinct. That was my knee-jerk.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to stop and go, is that a smart move? And the analogy I give people all the time is this. I walk into the bedroom in my house, my wife's gone, she's out, and on the bed is Selma Hayek and what's her name? I forgot her name now. From Modern Family. No, the one from the Modern Family, the Colombian lady. She's gorgeous.
Oh yes, Sofia Vergara.
Sofia Vergara, and they're both laid on my bed and they're naked. Right? What is my knee-jerk response? Strip my gear off and jump in. Of course. I own that. I recognize that. I'm not going to be in denial of that. That is what I want to do at knee-jerk level. But I have a set of values. I know my purpose. And the purpose, and so I say, so what would I do? And people go, you'd walk away? I go, hell no. I'd stay there, take in the view for at least a couple of seconds. And then I'd say, ladies.
At least take some pictures?
No, I'm a little better than that. But I would say, I take pictures, but in here. And I just go, ladies, appreciate it. It's a beautiful scene. But please put your clothes on. I'm going to go and leave the room. Because there is a knee-jerk response that is based on desire or based on the way that I process. But that's very different than the choice to take an action, which I love about this.
Yeah.
Right. There's got to be a discipline to it. Instincts just left unchecked and without consideration for the outcome is absolutely a disaster. And we do see that a lot as an excuse.
Well, and that's why we focus on the creative process. Kolbe is all about our version of the creative process. It starts with motivation, the affect. And you as a shrink know that. If we're not motivated, we won't do anything.
No.
Then that motivation triggers your use of your instinctive MO. And that's an internal drive. We found it's back here in the brain. We see it in brain studies. So it's real, it exists. It's not just in my mind or your mind, it's in the brain.
So is it tied to the old brain?
Yes, it's
reptilian. It's on the edge of the reptilian.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. It's fascinating. Oh, we could talk brain studies all day, and I'm doing more and more of those. We'll have to get you involved in those. We've done tests on MO's Kolbe results. 25 years later, people have the same result. It doesn't change.
That's what I wanted to ask you. If when I look back at mine, because I haven't looked in 8 years, and I wonder, and I know that I've been because it's who I am, very disciplined on growing myself and developing myself, and I wonder, I wonder if I would test differently.
No.
And that's part of me why I actually wanted to go through the test, but not look at my previous and put it side by side. And from what I'm hearing, it would be the same.
No, they stay the same.
We've done so many test retests, and it stays the same 92% of the time. And then I go to those people who changed.
Of course.
At least the test. I say, what happened? Why did? And they say, oh, well, when I did it the first time, my husband was sitting next to me and said, no, you don't do that. You do this. There was always a reason.
Right.
So the important thing is, when you take a Kolbe, whoever you are, the first thing we can say to you is, congratulations, you're perfect. Because you are perfectly capable of creative problem solving in your own way.
Yes.
Then we can say, as long as you're true to yourself and use this, you will be highly productive. So I can say to handicapped kids who have only been told all their problems, you are perfect. And they just grin from ear to ear. Autistic kids and kids with MS. And it's such a beautiful thing. And in a boardroom setting or a business setting, to be able to say to everybody in the room, you're also equally perfect. One isn't, well, I love doing it with lawyers. You're all equally perfect. Ooh, they have a problem all the time with that. There's no hierarchy of opponent result. There's no bell curve.
Right.
We are all equal, and we are consistently who we are over years. So I'm 77. I'm the same person I was at 7. I haven't changed. And that's the only part of the human being we know of as scientists that hasn't changed.
Right.
And when we see this in kids, this is why it's so important to tap into children at a young age, because it's been really fun to watch my own children. They're the same person over all these years. So the sooner you can know that, then you can be making great decisions. You can be in a school environment and understand what's going to frustrate you and what isn't. And we're very passionate about the
every
kids.
single middle school kid to know this. The crime rates will go down. The stress, the World Health Organization says the number one health epidemic in the world is stress.
I believe it.
And it's business-related stress. 70%, I'm picking my age, 70% of people say they hate their jobs.
Yep.
We don't have to have that. We can fix it.
More than 70% of people are disengaged at work. And, and in the work that we talk about, in our work, we say, well, why are they disengaged? You know, it's fine that you're a company going, it's no good how people are disengaged. Why are they disengaged? How are you engaging them? Are you engaging them in what you think it is, or are you engaging in what they think, what they need? Because this is part of the thing when we talk about loyalty. My last book, as you know, was Fiercely Loyal, about loyalty. And we said, well, how do you get people to be loyal? Well, part of it is engaging them, not in the way you think, but in the way they want. And part of that is recognition. They go, what do you mean? Well, you gave everybody $200 bonus. And here's the news. 60% of the people don't give a crap about money. And they go, what do you mean? What they actually wanted was for you to come in and look at them eyeball to eyeball and go, great job. And that, that's worth way more than $200 to that person. Now, there are people who are driven by money and it's good for them, but the others it's not. And this is what we forget. We tend to do these one-size-fits-all solutions that are so damaging because it always leaves somebody on the outer edge. Rather than saying, what would make you feel like you're in the right place? And it's so important.
What if I gave you an extra planner because you did such a good job?
Oh, that's a great idea. Because
That'd be wonderful for you.
It would be fabulous because I need to lift up my plant pot a little bit.
When we praise people for their strengths, what we're doing is praising them for using those strengths.
Right.
When we praise people for their weaknesses, all we're doing is saying, I really don't appreciate who you actually are. So
that is good. Stop. Say that again because I want people to hear that.
When we praise people for their strengths, we're saying, I appreciate you for contributing who you are. When we praise them for their weaknesses, we're saying, I don't really appreciate who you are.
This is fantastic. So important.
Now imagine doing that in a family business.
Absolutely.
Amy, I love you dearly. I really love the way you do all the organizing and all of the collecting of the material. And she's thinking, Mom doesn't appreciate me at all. Kathy, and we wouldn't say Mom, I'm always Kathy to her. Kathy doesn't really appreciate me because she's thanking me for something she knows is not my truth. I'm just doing it because I have to.
Well, you can smell bullshit no matter who it's coming from, including
Right.
family members, right? I mean, it's like, you are so blowing smoke up my skirt right now.
Yeah.
It's like,
And we do that all the time. HR says, here's the little list of things we should be saying and doing. As you say, that's bull.
yeah.
And I think we work with some business owners who don't get this is dollars and cents too. And I'm sure that's the same for what you do. This is fundamentally about your profitability in your business because it's about your people. They're the most expensive resource that you have. So we think it's fabulous because we know how it makes people feel. And we know that then that leads to greater engagement and loyalty and all of those things. But that is measurable in your business too. This is good. This is good business. This isn't about just making everyone feel good about who they are. It's very strategic.
This is the challenge, I think, that many business owners look at these kinds of things and say, well, it's a soft skill, we can't measure it.
Right.
Right? And it's like, ultimately, whatever you're measuring started as a soft skill. The analogy I use from the platform is, I'll show an image of a high-rise, and I'll say, okay, do you have to dig a hole before you build this high-rise? Yep, you do. Okay, good. Glad we all worked that out. You got to dig a bit, right? Yeah. And I show a small house. Do you have to dig a whole foundation for this? Yeah. So it doesn't matter what size it is. You got to dig the hole. Yeah. I said, now what if you build the building without pouring in the foundation? How will that work? Well, it won't. It'll fall down. Good. What do you pour into the foundation? Concrete? Yeah, good. What is concrete going in? It is soft. The soft thing becomes the most solid foundational piece of your business. The soft skills I give you, and it's actually in part of our byline, concrete leadership skills. And they are soft leadership skills. This is the thing. It's like, gotta grasp this, folks.
Absolutely.
And that's what I'm loving about this stuff. Inside of the family model, a good friend of mine I talked to you about a few minutes ago, Franco Lombardo, he's an international family business advisor, and he talks about the three-circle model of being family, ownership, and business operations, those three things and the intersection between the three of them. When somebody goes through this, they might score, as a strength in one area. Mm-hmm. And I think what I like about this model is that they could look at it inside of inside the three-circle model and go, this is fabulous in the family, but it sucks in operations.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Or this is fabulous in ownership. So you are that detailed individual. It's fantastic in ownership because you're watching the ins and outs. You're, as you said, like your son. You're making good business ownership decisions. Mm-hmm. But if you're doing that in family, people want to throw you out of the window because, you can't hear anybody else's input. I love the model because you can apply it to each of the circles, and by that say, you're a wonderful family member, but you're terrible for the business, or you're terrible for ownership.
Yeah. You can also say you're a wonderful employee, but not here.
Exactly.
You could contribute well. Let me introduce you to my friend who's running a different kind of business. I think the fact that we're all perfect and that we not only believe it, we have proven it objectively, scientifically, that cognitively, everybody's perfect.
Right.
So young, old, male, female, whether you're a fact finder or a quick start or whatever is your particular Kolbe strength, you have what it takes to succeed. But that may not be in the family business, or it may not be in the role that you would like in the family business. If we're always talking in objective terms, one of the things we hear from people so often is it's so quantifiable, it's so objective, that it's never a pejorative.
Right.
It's not an emotional statement, it's an objective statement. Mm-hmm. So it puts it on the table in a way that reduces hurt.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And also, one of the things we haven't mentioned that I just gotta is, you touched on it a little bit, arrogance.
Mm-hmm.
I believe arrogance is the most severe learning disability. You can't teach an arrogant person. So, arrogant attitude disability, which I named in Google, actually said, okay, that's a disability now. So Google has blessed it. AAD is something that you have to stop before a kid is 12 or 13 years old. It is almost irreparable after that. if you, for whatever reasons, have an arrogant relative, it doesn't matter what their MO is, it doesn't matter how much you love them, do not hire them. And we now have a test for arrogance.
Really? That is fabulous.
Yeah, I finally had to do it.
That is fabulous. And I tell you why. In our model, there's 10 pieces to the model. The outer ring is called curiosity.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
And because it removes arrogance, because the presupposition of curiosity is I don't know.
Yes.
And so what we say is, so I'll say something and say, now, I'm about to teach you a section here, and I want you to pay attention to your mind going, I know that. Mm-hmm. Every time your mind says, I know that, that's arrogance inside of your brain saying, I've got nothing else to learn. And the truth is, I can learn more and more about anything I know. So the question is, do I know it? Yeah. Do I know it enough? Maybe. Could I know it more? Definitely. Am I using it? Oh, we all know a lot of shit we ain't using. So that curiosity piece, I find that as because I think when we get insecure, we want to move to arrogance. And I know in my own insecurity, if it flushes up, I'll move to that arrogant place. And the only way, my antidote for that is curiosity. That's why I sign off every one of my programs with, stay curious, my friend, stay curious.
I love that, yeah.
It's like so I love that you've developed that. That's very cool.
We're working with school systems now that are dealing with failing schools. And guess what one of the causes of that is? Arrogant educators.
Oh.
It's not just the kids that aren't learning. Arrogant educators not only are not learning, they cannot teach.
Wow.
And so we're using this test for arrogance in hiring teachers. It's as important there, or more so than in businesses. But if you've got an arrogant family member, you don't even want to have dinner with them usually. But you certainly don't want them in your business.
No.
It's some bullshit obligation. Oh, God, we're going to have dinner with Bob.
Yeah, we all know who they are.
Yeah, and one of the things that we say is if you are going to go into business with a family member, you start with the exit clause. And we did that. When I was coming into the business, Kathy just said, when I came into the business, it was as a very short-term consulting gig because I had been doing sales training and stuff. But so once it looked like maybe it would work long-term, we decided if this doesn't work out, it's okay, and here's how we're going to handle that. So I think any family member you're going to bring in, you got to start in with assuming if it doesn't work, here, we're okay with it, and set up the expectation of how you will handle that, because it's not for everyone. So as Kathy said, maybe you're perfect in another environment, and that's great too, and help them find what that other great fit is for them. But that expectation that it's going to work, then everyone feels like a failure.
This is a great book, and it goes into all of this stuff. Business is business, and the reality check for family businesses. And I'm going to do something really mean to you now, and that's this. I'm going to say,
Lucy admits it.
Yeah. So, and what it is this: is that if somebody's watching this, they're in the family business, and you said, "Listen, this is the book. You got to get it." But they said, "What's the one thing that is a takeaway from that I've got to get in my family business, whether I am the matriarch, patriarch, or next generation?"
You go first. Let's see if we're the same.
Okay, and you were saying, is it the owner or the person's just in the family business? Right?
Let's make it the owner. Let's make it the lead gen right now. So it's the person who's in the matriarchal or the patriarchal position.
Okay, so trust your instincts. I mean, that's the first thing that I would say, and
but
that means that
not the way we're thinking of instincts, but the Kolbe version of instinct.
Yeah,
right.
You've got to trust your instincts, and it starts with that. You have to know yourself. You can't, if you're the business owner, you cannot bring anyone else, any family members into it unless you first know who you are. And then you can figure out how to surround yourself with the right players. There are too many times when everyone's looking for input from other people and other sources. And the book is called Business is Business, because I will say that the real fundamental thing is you've got to keep business business and personal personal. I mean, that ultimately, that sounds easy. It's not easy. That book is full of examples, because we work with these people every day and we live it, of how hard it is to separate those. Yeah. So what would you add?
I would love to disagree, but I can't. She's given you what my answer would be. But I will say that the feedback I get on the favorite chapters, because each chapter is a very different topic, but they all blend. The two favorite chapters are the one on developing the next generation, because we really know how to do it.
Yeah.
We've done it. We're in the third generation. We've helped so many people and families do it. We know the answers to the questions there. So that's just filled with nuggets of gold in terms of what people are reading. The other favorite chapter kind of amuses me because it's the last one on how I got out of the business. And how does the founder get kicked out?
Right.
And we titled it Graceful Exits, because I'd like to think I exited gracefully, because I'm no longer at the company I founded. Amy and David are running Kolbe Corp, and I have my own little Skunk Works company. I have 3 employees now. I'm going to have 3 new interns this summer. So I'm doubling my staff this summer, and I'll have 6 people. Well, I love mean and lean and innovating, and I'm working with people around the globe who do a little of this and that. I'm the ultimate collaborative kind of leader, and I hate managing a business. So when they came to me and said, we'd love for you to have a sabbatical. You've worked so long for so many years. Why don't you take however much time off that you want to take and go take classes, do whatever you want to do. I wasn't going to take classes, but do whatever you're going to do, probably.
Have you met her? Yeah. Go and take a knitting class, Kathy. That would be nice. Maybe crochet would be good.
Yeah.
I said, how soon can I start? And they said, well...
she did. We were shocked.
And they were thinking I would do it maybe in a month or so of turning stuff over and preparing to be gone. I said, I'd like to start Monday. I think that was on a Wednesday or Thursday. And I started the following Monday, and 2 weeks later, I called them up and I said, I'm never coming back. I mean, I said, so offer people the opportunity to be free and see what freedom means to them.
You know, but the key was you knew what you...
Oh, I knew exactly.
She knew what she wanted to do. So the owners that we're working with, where they're really struggling, is they don't have the next thing. I think there's this wonderful thing called retirement that people talk about, that most creative, intellectual people that are really making a difference in the world, they try it and it's not for them. So the founders of the businesses are often coming back into the business just because they haven't figured out what's the next thing that I want to do. And it's not good for anyone. Because
I'll tell you, in the work that we've done with family businesses, very often, you guys know this very well. Come on in, Kathy, you're on the edge there. Come on in. So one of the things that we found, thank you. One of the things that we found is that there's this question of, well, I'm not sure if the next gen is ready. And so we asked the question, well, how do you define ready? You can't really nail it down, because ready in their head is experience, and the person's not going to have the 40 years of experience that the senior had. But what it really is, when we work with them, when we get underneath what's going on, is you're identified as the leader, you're identified as the owner. So how are you going to go to that next social event and say, hi, I'm Bob, I'm the ex-president of, I'm the ex-owner of, I'm the person who started? That doesn't feel good. And so they cling on, and so what happens is the next gen is like constantly waiting in the thing and self-doubting that they're capable because this person's holding on to their identity. And a lot of the work we do is saying, listen, mate, you've done it. You've done a fantastic job. It rocks. What's your legacy? And they go, what do you mean? Well, the legacy is the business. Bullshit. That's not your legacy. And they go, well, what do you mean? I say, I want you to know who one of my favorite leaders is and how I think he was a terrible leader. And they go, your favorite leader, terrible leader? Yeah. Nelson Mandela. Fantastic leader. What an amazing leader.
Yes.
Like, what he did was phenomenal. Why was he terrible? There's no legacy. Right. When he died, the presidency was taken over by drunks and people who dance with machine guns. This is not a legacy. And it's where he failed. And I use that example with these business leaders and saying, listen, you standing on the outside and watching the business go down like the Titanic is good for your ego, because you can go, see, it needed me. But is that the legacy you want? Or do you want to say, I led so well that the person who took over from me took it even higher?
My favorite way to say what you're talking about, because we agree on almost everything. I haven't found anything we don't agree on. I like to use the term, I'm the founder of Kolbe Corp. I can always hold on to that. I'm always the founder, and I can be proud of it. And I got prouder every day that Amy and David take it further.
That's wonderful.
But I'm also currently involved in creating new products. Some that Kolbe will sell. Some they say to me, "Go ahead and create it, Kathy. We're not going to sell that." I mean, they don't like everything I create, but I don't need their permission anymore. I have to find other outlets to sell some of my other ideas. It's perfect.
Fabulous, fabulous. Now, listen, we're really getting tight on time, and I want to get in a couple of things. I believe, my belief, not the truth. I believe that the most successful people in the world are obsessed. They have their own particular obsession, and I'll define obsession for you, meaning it comes on in a movie, it's the part of the movie you always remember. It's in a TV show, you have to watch that show. There's an article about it, you have to read it. There's a book comes out on it, you have to read it. There's a social event going on, it might not be the appropriate conversation, but somehow you find a way to get to it. What are your obsessions? What do you find yourself obsessed with?
Okay, for me that's easy. It's human behavior. That's why this is the best thing for me ever. I actually wanted to be a psychology major in college, but I thought that's not practical. I don't want to be a therapist. So I was a business major, and I love the strategy of business and everything I learned. But once I could couple a business with human behavior, that was a no-brainer. And if I had to get more specific, it's productivity.
Yes. So I was going to say, so the human behavior is one piece, but there's the human behavior generally probably wouldn't do it for you. There's probably an obsession inside of that.
Yep.
And it's productivity?
Absolutely.
So now the question, you don't have to answer. The question is, why? But you can come back to that yourself.
Okay, good.
Kathy, what's your obsession?
I'm obsessed with trying to get people to believe in themselves and to believe that there is a power within them, to believe that they can do things, to believe that they have value and worth. I believe every human being was created equally. And I'm passionate about proving that. I had to prove that. I'm the daughter of the Wonderlic from the Wonderlic personnel test. And that's a cognitive test. And I kept saying, but Dad, you're showing some people are smarter, but that's not all there is. There's other stuff that matters. And he said, Kathy, I've done my work. You go figure out what it is that's equal about people. And so equality and the ability to build on the values you bring to the table, to be free to be you and to love yourself for it. I'm so passionate about that I can't sleep at night. I just have to do it.
But what was really interesting, Kathy, what I loved about your answer is you not only told me the answer, you told me the why, which was your dad and that test that said, no, you're not quite as good. So let's find out how hold on a minute, let me just check that out. I love that.
And then it's the family business I couldn't go into.
Right.
Not if I was the baby, but I didn't believe in it.
Fantastic. I love it. Thank you both so much. So now I want to ask you this question. They're only small, they don't hold a lot, so what is the one thing you want on your gravestone? If you could only put one thing on your gravestone, it's very short, what is it?
Well, mine's cliche maybe, but it's absolutely true for me, and that's she made a difference.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Again, I could steal her answer. I would also, maybe she persevered.
She persevered. I love it.
Yeah, you'd have to know the backstory, but I'm sure. Things. And, you just can't kill me off that easily. I persevere.
You're like the Terminator.
Yes, exactly.
That's the new nickname is the Terminator. Kathy Terminator Kolbe. She's not going down, baby.
No, I'm not.
That's fabulous. This has been wonderful, ladies. Thank you so much. It's been such a gift. Please tell our listeners, our viewers, where they can find out more about you, about this book, about the Kolbe Index test, all those kinds of things. Let us know.
So please visit us at www.kolbe.com, and that's spelled KOLBE.com. And the book is certainly available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, any of those places as well.
Fabulous. And also you can learn more about the actual book by going to businessisbusinessbook.com. You'll find it there too. And you can find you guys on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, all of those places, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Fantastic. And Twitter, I'm trying to remember what is it. Is it at Kolbe?
I'm just Kathy Kolbe.
Yeah, at Kathy Kolbe. So with a K and with a K.
Yep, K and K.
A K and a K.
Well,
and I am controversial. You don't want controversy.
You know what you're getting into.
Well, I personally would be very upset by that, and I know that people who follow me would certainly have no interest in anything of controversy. It's been great having you here, ladies. Thank you so much. I want to thank you on behalf of all of our listeners and our viewers. And again, I want to say to you as the viewer, as the listener, listen, do not just listen to this. Don't just watch it, some passive thing. Listen to what was said. These ladies took an hour out of their day to be with you, to share their highly valuable knowledge, skills, strategies. Use them. Go do the Kolbe test. Grab this book. Do the Kolbe test. I promise you, it will delight you to do it. I've done it. It will delight you to do it. Go and do it. It will give you some insights. And again, like Kathy said, it's this really great way of seeing the value you already have rather than the deficits that you're trying to get over, which is never, ever going to empower you. So I love it. I want you to go there. I want you to do it. Please do that. And in the process of that, what I want to say is, remember, the research consistently shows that the companies that get to the top and stay there are purpose-driven. If you're truly serious about becoming laser-focused about the purpose of your organization to build a company with authentic leaders who are fiercely loyal to you and to the purpose of your organization, then reach out to me, Dov Baron, at fullmontyleadership.com, where we provide the essential leadership skills for today's good leaders who are committed to becoming great leaders of tomorrow, growing your people and growing your bottom line. Full Monty Leadership, providing you with the concrete, soft skills to get you and your organization to the top and keep you there. Why? Because you can't outsource authenticity. This is Dov Baron reminding you to get yourself over to matrix.fullmontyleadership.com, where you can do your self-assessment for the 5 skills that you will need, the 5 pieces of your personality, of your work, and of the things you do that will make you a most authentic leader to drive loyalty. Till next time, this is Dov Baron saying, stay curious, my friend. Stay curious about what your true instinct is. This is Dov Baron, and I am out.